This is Newcap News.
And while that cold front hits the border city, the men's shelter received an assist from 2 junior hockey teams today. Eric Friesen reports.
The Lloydminster Bandits and the Hillmont Hitmen presented the Lloydminster Men's Shelter with a check for $1,750 raised from a charity hockey game earlier this month. Bandits forward Kyle Tenney says the team was thrilled to help out those in need.
Oh, the guys were happy to come out and do it. I think everyone had fun with it too, so to see that is just awesome. There are people in need like here that we can raise money for.
Executive Director Heather Gray says the donation will help the shelter cover their additional costs.
It'll help supplement our operational budget, and for right now it means it helps us pay for the extra staffing that we've had to cover due to the cold weather. Well, we serve a continental breakfast in the morning. For the residents that are here, the residents take a bagged lunch with them in the afternoon. Then we prepare a full supper at night.
Due to the increasingly cold weather, the Lloydminster Men's Shelter is now open 24 hours a day. Residents are normally asked to leave at 8 a.m. and can return at 5 p.m. for supper, but once temperatures reach 25 below, it's no longer safe for them to be on the streets for any extended period of time.
We usually go to the culture house next door. It's open on weekends, Saturday and Sunday, 8 till 5 in the evening, but that's during the weekend. But we've been having inside day ever since because of the cold.
The shelter expects to stay open around the clock until December 30th, but could extend beyond that date if needed. Eric Friesen, Newcap News.
Well, we're days away from the new year and just over a week away from the second annual Chip Away Hunger event. On January 6th, Lloydminster residents will have the opportunity to get rid of their Christmas trees while donating to a good cause. Josh Ryan has more.
Last year, Lloyd Rumbold hoped his Chip Away Hunger food drive would become an annual event. After chipping around 450 Christmas trees and raising more than $800 for the Lloydminster Food Bank, it's back in 2018.
We didn't know exactly how many numbers of trees to expect, but we started with hopes and expectations somewhere in the 200 range, so we exceeded that, and I guess we'll see what support we get this year.
The drive is welcomed by the Salvation Army as donations slow down after the holidays.
Often the need is greater for clients after Christmas, and so to have individuals or companies or organizations that are willing to do fundraisers or food drives for us in the new year is really important.
It's also an efficient use of the trees by dropping them off to become mulch.
It's a good option to recycle the trees. They're, a one-time use item for sure.
The benefits of mulch can then go to the community moving forward.
It helps in water retention, so in dry periods, it helps retain moisture in the soil. It also reduces the amount of moisture lost around plants, and it helps keep weeds down.
And while warmer weather is expected this time around, Rumbold is prepared for all conditions.
It was cold last year, and it was something we were able to deal with and handle, so we're prepared to do the same thing again.
Josh Ryan, Newcap News.
Lloydminster MLA Colleen Young recently sat down with reporter Brian Lentz to talk about her challenges and accomplishments in 2017. She also looked ahead to the new year to discuss her plans for the future.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Young, for joining me today. And obviously, you're a little over 2 years into your, or just under 2 years into your mandate. What have been some of the highlights of this past year for 2017?
Well, I think one of the big things probably that people, have been following along and that have been the biggest challenge for us is the provincial budget. As you know, that was brought down earlier in the spring and the challenges that came with it. Our resource sector being down and causing us a little bit of grief and a lot longer than we anticipated. So that has probably been the biggest challenge. And then the budget that we had to put together was probably the biggest piece of it.
And how has that budget affected yourself, and how has it affected the constituents here?
Well, I think, as you know, with Lloydminster, we are a border city, and there's always going to be challenges, and a budget on one side that continuously adds to their deficit, and then in Saskatchewan, where we chose not to do that and to rein in some of our expenses and try to balance off within the next 3 years is cause some challenges for different organizations, whether it's the construction organization, whether it's the municipal part of things, or health or education. Probably has caused a few more challenges than it would if you were all in Saskatchewan.
And switching to talking about rural crime in the area, what have been some of the initiatives, or what are you looking to do to try and help deal with the issue?
Well, as you know, our government commissioned last year, about this time, a task force that was chaired by Herb Cox, the MLA out of North Battleford, and there was about 8 people on that task force that traveled around the province to hear from different areas of the province, whether it's from the RCMP, whether it was from RMs, whether it was from individual people, with regards to rural crime and the challenges that were happening in our rural areas. Just recently, there was additional special services brought to Onion Lake in the last couple of weeks, additional officers as well as dogs and a special unit in order to try to address some of the gang activity, drug activity, and things that are happening up there that are causing a lot of grief within the constituency.
Of course, earlier this year, a big announcement for the Sask Party was Brad Wall announcing that he would retire as soon as a successor is chosen. How big of a surprise was that for yourself?
It was a very big surprise to not just to myself, but all of caucus. As you know, back in August, we had a caucus retreat, and it was there where the Premier chose to make his announcement that he was stepping out of politics and retiring. It was very emotional for all of us. As we all know, our Premier has been probably the best Premier that this country has ever had in any province, and has provided some strong leadership with some integrity and with some, support for not just Saskatchewan but all of Western Canada, and I think people are quite well aware of that. So I mean, it was a very emotional time for all of us to realize he was stepping down, but I think also, we all recognize that, parties need to renew themselves and need to refresh themselves and build up on some new leadership, and giving us some time as a party to address that with a new leader before going into another election was really significant for us to all realize and recognize, and I think our Premier recognized that too.
All right, well, thank you very much, Ms. Young, for coming in and joining me today.
You're welcome, and thank you for inviting me. It's a great opportunity.